Right, I took a moment to dry them, and then I went over to my drawing box and I got out these little Micron pens made by Pigma. They're really good, and they come in different sizes, 0.1 or 0.1, 0.3, 0.5, and then a BR, which is a brush. I generally use the 1 or the 3 if I'm going to do what I'm fixing to do. And what I'm going to do is use the tip of it, and I'm going to draw these lines in that are on here. Easy enough to do. The difference between this and this one is we have a sleeve over here and we don't have a sleeve here. And so we're just going to, I'll lay that off to the side as a guide so we can see how we did that. Run that down the length of the sleeve. And these work really well even on paint. I've been told that they also work on the finish when you're done, the sealer that you're using, but I haven't tried that yet because I don't want to ruin the tips of them. Anyway, you're just making sure those follow some kind of line. Here's the line for the elbow, so we're going to make them turn there. And you don't need a lot. You don't need a lot of color on there. You have to be real careful making sure those lines follow where you want them to follow. Otherwise, they won't look right. And when you make cross lines, make sure they're perpendicular. This is not the kind of marker that you can lay it off to the side and it will mark. This has to be almost held straight up, straight down. So take some time to practice and play around with these things. Have a little fun with this idea. It's a lot different on the arm than it is anywhere else. Anywhere else, you don't have to worry about it changing direction on you. And you're just giving the impression. It's like painting trees. You're not painting every individual leaf. You're painting the impressions. So don't worry about having everything being 100% perfect. It's okay. This is art. This is your expression of how you see it. And if yours is a little different than someone else's, there's not a doggone thing wrong with that. I've seen some paintings that I wouldn't hang in a chicken coop. But, you know, they may have sold for millions of dollars from someone, and that's because someone sees that as art. I'm not here to tell them it's not art. It's not my art. It's not something I would buy. But somebody will, and somebody will give good money for that. And so no matter what your carving is, no matter what it's supposed to represent, there's somebody out there that would love to have it. That's what you have to take into consideration. Either you want to keep it forever, or somebody else would love to have it. You just got to find that right owner. Luckily, I've been able to find a lot of people that like my carvings. Nobody ever says, no thanks, you keep it. And so somebody, almost always, there's a somebody out there that wants what you're doing. You just have to find them and give that to them. And I think that don't look too bad. We'll cap that so we don't dry them out. All right. One of the things I like to do when I'm done painting is seal it with a matte varnish sealer. This is matte varnish. It's not going to give it a shine. I like to shake it up so it's got a little bit of mixture to it. And it doesn't take much. But this is designed to keep your painting from fading. So the paint that you're using, given exposure to light, it could fade over time. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cover the paint with this in a light wash. I just want to cover that to make sure that no matter what happens over the course of the years, my signature on the bottom says that Eric Owens is painted carving is not going to fade, no matter what you do with it. Okay, now, understand that if you put it outside, that's a whole different story. But in this case, I just want to make sure that this paint isn't going to fade for the buyer who buys it. I can tell them that they're in their lifetime, given a reasonable type of care, this will still look good after 10, 15, 20 years. I probably won't be here at that time, but it'll still look good. Anyway, there's no real finesse to this. You just cover the painting, and then we'll hit it with the dryer and dry it off. Then we'll put an antiquer on it. Antiquer makes it look down in the corners like it's older. And then we'll be done with it, other than signing the painting. So at this point, what I would do, I don't worry about it too much, but I want to dry it off. I just want to wipe that off. As much of it as I can. I'll hit it with a blow dryer, and we'll antique it. Paint's out of the way because we don't want to knock those over and get it all over ourselves. In 3, 2, 1, I'm going to hit the hair dryer. 3, 2, 1. There we go. All right, this next step, you're going to have to be real careful with it because there are several precautions you need to know. Number one, we're going to use Watco wax. This is half natural and half dark. You can't buy the dark anymore, but if you can find it anywhere, pick it up because it's not available. It's a sealing wax, and what I do is I mix it in half and half. You do not want to play with this stuff without having gloves on. I always wear gloves anytime I'm playing with it, and I'll wear it on one hand that's handling the carving, and I don't worry about the other hand because it's not touching much of that wax. But get these little latex gloves from Costco, and they work fairly well, except for my middle finger always sticks up, so it looks like I'm flipping everybody off. Anyway, I use a stiff brush to put that on there, and I cover it, except for the face. I do not want this on the face, but I'm just going to cover it. If it gets on the face, it's not a big deal. It just may darken it too much, and you have to play with that. If I'm going to put this wax on the face, I'll make sure I'm using the natural rather than the dark. But as you can see, it really looks like it's darkening things up, and it does do that. It darkens things up, but that's not necessarily a bad thing on some of your carvings. In this case, I don't really care. I'm going to put it on the hand. I'm going to put it everywhere. I'm even going to put it on the mustache. And I may, just to show you what it does, put it on the face as well. But if you're going to put it on the face, do that last so that you can take it off real quickly. You don't want it sitting on there, because this stuff, if left on there, you can see how dark it makes the carving all over. And if you let it dry on there, it will dry that dark. Might be a little bit lighter, but it'll dry that dark. Let's test it on the face and see what it does. See what that does about the color. Okay, so then what I want to do after that, grab a couple of paper towels, and I'm going to hold this with one hand with the glove, and I'm just going to wipe that off. So if I wipe it off the face first, you can see that I've got a little bit on there, and it darkened that face up. But look what it does to that hat. Makes it look like an old carving. Not like something you just finished yesterday and handed it to somebody today still smelling like wax. So I said a couple of precautions. One is I don't touch a lot of this wax with my hands. I just don't like it. I don't like getting it on my fingers. I don't like getting it on my hands. I fear that what this wax is doing to my skin and what it's doing to my internal body. Because if it is truly the type of wax that can get inside your skin, then where does that lodge at? It lodges in your kidneys or in your liver. So just nothing wrong with using this stuff. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying don't use it. I'm saying take precautions when you're using any type of mineral-based product. Any type of that stuff that is a distillate base, it's distilled from something. has a tendency to not necessarily be good for you in large chunks. Okay? You see how good that looks? I like the way that turns out. Now, before I put a sealer on it, or at least the final sealer, and that's entirely up to you how you do that, whether you use a polyurethane spray from Minwax or something like that, or whether you use something a little bit differently. I use a brush-on wax. It's handle safe. It's natural cream beeswax. It cleans and polishes all wood surfaces. I like it because by the time I put that on with a brush, it really shines up some of those facets and brings them out. Whether you spray it or not, it's up to you. However you finish, feel comfortable doing that. The other precaution I meant about using this is any of these things like here that have this wax on it has a tendency to spontaneously combust. So what you want to do is take this, make sure that it's wet, you get it wet, and then put it somewhere to dry, and then throw it away properly after that. That's the other precaution, other than not getting it on your hands, and other than not playing around with these things in terms of just throwing them out. Because if I threw it out here on the patio in the trash, and it heated up to over 100 degrees with the sun, this may spontaneously combust, and then you got issue big problem. So anyway, that's how we do that. Make sure you sign the back. Somebody always wants to know who did it. I get a lot of calls from people that say, I know this was done by a carver in your area. Can you tell me who it was? Sometimes I can, sometimes I can't. Sometimes nobody can. Make sure you sign your carving so that everyone knows who it is. And I hope you had fun on this video. I hope you had fun on this whole series. I love doing this. I'm glad it was in the magazine, and I'm glad to show it to you and show you how I do it. Again, I'm not trying to tell you how to do things. I'm telling you how I do it, and it's entirely up to you how you do it. I encourage you to find your own way because you're going to be happier doing it your way than always following somebody else's stuff. Anyway, fun carving with you. I hope you had a good time with me, and we'll see you on the next video session. Talk to you guys later.